Hello. Some of you are working quite hard on your discussion board and giving pretty thorough summaries of what the different ones say, which is okay. Um, but try more to spend your time not just writing kind of an extensive summary, but really making kind of key points of comparison, looking at how they're similar and how they're different. You're mentioning some things, but I think sometimes in doing all the summaries, you kind of miss the forest for the trees, if you know the saying, where you're trying to give me all the details back to show me that you watched, but really not seeing how the details relate or sometimes differ. Uh, and for instance, sometimes you'll even say things like, "Well, there are a lot alike," and but you won't tell me how they're like, and then you'll say, "Except for this." Um, Also, look for small details. Look for little details that are actually bigger than they seem. So, someone mentioned that, a few people mentioned that they all start with darkness and void. And in one sense, that's accurate. But look a little more closely and think about this. Um, in fact, one of you even said it and didn't catch it as you were saying it, that they all start with darkness, that the Egyptian one starts with darkness, and then the God is created out of the waters. And then in Genesis, God creates and is formless. That's a big difference right there. Okay. Genesis starts very purposefully with in the beginning, God. Not in the beginning, darkness, not in the beginning, the sea, not in the beginning. All the stories, all the cultures seem to have this sense in which um, the first creation is a sea, is chaos, and it needs to be ordered. But in the polytheistic stories of the surrounding cultures, think about this, they often start with the sea. The sea is just there, kind of like that Hindu passage we saw with the gods. The gods were not before stuff, the gods were part of the universe. Is there a God that's beyond all that? Maybe the first one, maybe he knows. If you remember that Hindu passage, that's very similar to what's going on in the Egyptian, the Babylonian. These gods rise up out of the sea, the chaos, and then they bring order to the chaos. But the chaos was just there. And that's seems like a minor difference maybe at first, but it's a huge difference in the thinking of these ancient peoples. In the beginning, God created heavens and the earth, and he created it void. Not in the beginning there was darkness in the sea, and the God rose up out of the sea and then began to create an order. These are two very, very different things. And in fact, it'll later get codified in Jewish and Christian theology as this idea of creation ex nihilo, creation out of nothing, which none of these other systems really seem to have that concept of creation out of nothing. And as we move forward in lectures, we'll talk more about this, but I kind of wanted to bring that up and get you focusing on that as you continue to look at these. Um, to look closely at the little details. Realize that for the Egyptians, for the Babylonians, the sun is a god, the moon is a god, the stars are gods, the planets are gods. For the Hebrew story, they're not. God is one. God made everything. And we'll see that um, in some sense, we've already seen some, that in the law, in the telling of the law, it said, do not make for yourselves anything to worship that's an image of anything in the heavens above, the earth below, or the waters below the earth. Those are all the realms of the created order. That's everything it is. That's the whole of the universe, the heavens above, the earth below, and the waters beneath the earth. For these peoples, that is the universe. And that universe doesn't contain any gods. You shouldn't worship anything in it from this Hebrew perspective. God made it all. And he made it all with his word out of nothing. There was nothing there. He spoke, and there's something there. That is radical and foreign to these other surrounding cultures. It's a big shift. Um, Still, there's those similarities, but the similarities are actually there to point to the difference. Yes, there is chaos, but where did the chaos come from? For the other ancient cultures, the chaos was just there. It's just what was. And then the God came up out of it, and then there was order. But for the Hebrews, in the beginning, God.